Morning everyone. So we are up to the Wizards of Once Twice Magic chapter 14. They really shouldn't be fighting each other. No, cried Wish in distress. Why won't you listen, both of you? This is all a waste of time. We shouldn't be fighting each other. I keep telling you there's a king witch just below us. And he's about to unfreeze, and he's the commander of a whole horde of witches. So this really isn't the moment to be doing this. Warriors, attack! Replied Queen Sycorax, completely ignoring her. Be merciful if you can. If the wizards surrender, take them prisoner. Wizard faced warrior, and they began to fight. The magic people were at a great disadvantage, for, as you know, magic does not work on iron. But snowcats have teeth and talons, as do bears and wolves. Even sprites have fangs that sting like bees if they bite you. And wizards and druids carry bronze weapons with them as well as their magic staffs if they are venturing into difficult or unknown territories. So the sound of bronze sword on iron breastplate rang out with a bright, terrible ring, and such was the volume of the roars of the wolves and the hissing of the sprites, the cursing of the druids and the bellows of the giants, that you could barely hear yourself think in the cacophony of the battle. Wish looked on in horror. Why do they do this, Caliburn? She asked despairingly. They're so stupid. I told them about the King Witch, but they're just not listening. I thought maybe after the story that we could make my mother and Zara see sense. But look at them now. Sycorax had made her guards remove Encanso's manacles. Both monarchs drew their swords, bowed to each other with exaggerated royal curtsy, and then lunged simultaneously, their sword points meeting in dreadful song as they began their battle. You might as well give up now, spat Queen Sycorax as she fenced superbly, for it is inevitable that you will lose. Your bronze sword is no match for my iron one. I cannot lose more than I have already lost, said Encanso. Caliburn, on Wish's shoulder, sighed and shook his head. I don't know, he said sadly. So many lifetimes I have lived, and this is the way it all ends. Look. Oh, I've forgotten my accents again. And look at Zar, said Wish. Is he going to grow up to be as bad as the others? And even Zar found that real war was not the same as the idea of it. What was he supposed to do now? Fight Bodkin, who was running towards him? But he liked Bodkin. The red mist of excitement faded from Zar's head, and he paused and said, Zar! Shouted Bodkin. We need to help Wish get out of here. In the confusion we can get away. Oh, yes, said Zar with a start. Of course we can, but too late. As the wizards and warriors fought each other, some of the combatants lost their balance when the ground beneath them began to shake. For, in the chamber below them, the sinister shape of the King Witch had finally unfrozen, and with a noise louder than 1,000 thunderclaps, it burst up through the broken flagstones of the courtyard, creating such an outstanding noise that the people halted their fighting in their astonishment as up it soared, and then dropped. As it fell, it picked up speed, making a horrific explosion as the green sparks flew off it. Someone pointed upwards in alarm at what now seemed transformed into a huge boulder, plummeting towards them, and the small party running across the hall scattered as boom! What looked like a boulder landed with an almighty explosion, right bang splat in the centre of the courtyard, shattering into a mass of tiny black shards and dust. And at that moment of impact, it burst into bright green flames. Look! Shouted Bodkin, pointing at the sky above them. Above the castle, there was the sound of many, many wings. The crowd looked up. They were there, slowly turning visible in front of their eyes. The sky was thick with witches. There's such a lot of them, gasped Sycorax. How could there be so many witches in the world, and we not know about them for so long? Where have they all been? 5 of the witches swooped down on the ground, gigantic starting to leap around a fire and flew round and round, turning flames as they flew anti-clockwise, as if they were winding some invisible clock, making a horrible keening sound. With trembling fingers, Tsar got a good hold of the enchanted sword. The witches whirled faster, faster, shrieking in delight as the fire burned, screamed, and crackled. And then great wings opened in the heart of the fire, wings that spread wide, slowly, unbearably, wings on fire, eyes like melting holes of hate, a beak that screeched its loathing of the world and on all the sweet good things that are in it. The King Witch. Chapter 15. The King Witch. The Queen shook the boulder dust off her white skirt, sniffing. "We seem to have a slight problem," said the enchanter, betraying his agitation by a slightly raised eyebrow. If Queen Sycorax could play it cool, then by mistletoe so could the enchanter. The crowd stared in horror at the large crater in the middle of the courtyard, which now looked as if it had been blasted by the landing of a stray asteroid. Power reeked from the feathered thing that slowly it unfurled its wet black wings to their full extent. They dripped on the floor, black smoking drips, as it lifted its beak and looked around at the crowd until it could pick out Tsar and Wish. Sycorax was pale, very, very pale. For she knew that this was all partly her fault. She had tried to be too clever. This was that horror that had been hiding in her stone that takes away magic all along. Wish had told her. But there is nothing like being confronted with the actual reality to make you realise the extent to which you have been miscalculating. She turned to Encanso, white as ice. "Alcaquin," said Queen Sycorax uncertainly. "I think I might have made a little bit of a mistake." Sorry, my phone just jumped off the tripod. And when I say jumped, I mean pushed. Miracle of miracles, stiff Queen Sycorax, proud Queen Sycorax, unbending Queen Sycorax, who always thought she was right absolutely about everything, admitting that even she might not be perfect. "We all make mistakes," said Encanso grimly. "Even you and I, Queen Sycorax." "Oh, by hemlock and nightshade and all things mean and bad," said the witch smiler. "What is that?" "That, you fool, is a witch," said Sycorax. "You see the difference? Pest controller. Giants and fairies and magical people, they're not really witches at all now, are they?" Sorry, this is my dog jumping on and off the settee every time I get a little bit animated in this book. "A witch is kind of unmistakable." "And that isn't just a normal witch either," said Encanso grimly. "That is a king witch. What do you want, witch?" Now that the King Witch began to speak, and it was a dreadful sound indeed, a harsh, grating, guttural sound that seemed to pain him to make, and every now and again a word was reversed, as was the fashion with witches. "I want the children," crooned the King Witch. "Give me the children." There was a horrible silence. "What children?" said Encanso. The King Witch pointed at Tsar and at Wish. "The boy is already mine," said the King Witch. "And the girl is, well, special." "There's absolutely nothing special about Wish. Look at her," said Sycorax briskly, but there may have been a little anxiety in her voice. "She's absolutely, totally normal, and if anything, for a warrior, just a little bit substandard." They all looked at Wish, standing uncomfortably on one leg. She didn't look remotely special, a small, skinny little child with an eye patch and hair sticking out all in directions. "She has something I need," continued King Witch. I already have some of it, but only as much as was in the very tip of her very little finger. Now I want all of it to share with my fellow witches. Give it to me now." "And what," said the Queen with considerable asperity, "are you intending to do with her?" "I intend very much to eat her," said the King Witch, which is not very nice, but what did you expect a witch to be like? There was another horrified silence. "That is absolutely ridiculous," snapped Queen Sycorax, magnificently scornful in every inch of monarch. "Of course you cannot eat a child, you disgusting creature. I've never heard of anything more barbaric in me life." "Give me the child," repeated the King Witch. "I will swallow her whole. Give me the child." "I am the Queen of these territories," said Queen Sycorax. "We have a warrior army full of armed with iron. Take your witches out of here before I kill every single one of you. Now go." The King Witch gave a ghastly shriek, and spread wide his great dark wings and leapt into the air. And as he flew up into the airy heights, it looked for one moment as if he was flying away, trying to escape. Spare a thought for the poor witch smeller. This was meant to be his moment after all. He'd been enjoying the battle with the wizards, but this was even better. As the King Witch soared upward, the witch smeller was rubbing his hands together. This was too good. All his wishes had come true at once. A witch! At last he had found a real-life witch, after a long time of looking, and not just one witch, a whole host of these creatures. They weren't extinct after all. "Get out the witch-destroying weapon!" yelled the witch smeller joyfully. "Prepare to face the full force of iron, thing of evil!" He put down his iron visor, almost chuckling to himself. The witch smeller imagined, encased in iron, as he was, iron breastplates, iron helmet, that he would be quite safe against the witch. It might look scary, this creature, but no magic could work against iron. He would first get rid of the big one, and then turn the might of the weapon on all of the others, and then he would go back to the capital in triumph and in glory, with lots of witch beaks to show the Emperor. The witch smeller was just enjoying this happy little thought when the King Witch turned on him. High up in the air, the King Witch turned in a great, beautiful, glorious swoop. If you had been in the mood to admire the swooping of witches, which the witch smeller was certainly not, and with a great gesture of his feathered wing, the King Witch pointed all 5 of his taloned fingers at the witch smeller and 2 of his imperial giant killers who were struggling to launch the witch-destroying weapon. And the magic came blindingly out of the 5 fingers, with the fierceness with which it might blast out of 5 wizards' staffs. 50 years the witch smeller had studied witch hunting and the pursuit of magic, and now he was looking up through his little iron visor at the thunderous sky and realizing, oh my goodness, that the King Witch was spelling at him, and that was exactly the same moment that he had a tiny flicker of concern as he realized, horror of all horrors, how small he was, how insignificant, how unprepared for the spells coming down at him in brilliant stars of light. The witch smeller didn't even have time to get the imperial giant killers to launch his witch-destroying weapon. It had taken years for the witch smeller's father and for the witch smeller's father's father to design that weapon, and they reckoned that they had got it pretty much perfect. But this is an excellent example of how things that work magnificently in theory don't necessarily work in practice. The witch smeller got as far as shouting, "Launch the before the spells hit him. The stars of light hit the witch smeller full in the chest and bounced neatly off onto the other magic hunters standing around him, one after the other, a little bit like dominoes. 1 second the witch smeller was standing in full body armour, erect and splendid, if a little uneasy, with his axe raised high above his head, shouting impressive instructions. The next second, the armour had stiffened around him and solidified, and he was caught within it as if he were the trunk of a tree. Clang! His visor came down. "Hello? Anybody there?" said the witch-smeller in a bewildered sort of way, and the echo of his own voice came back to him from within his helmet prison. "Hello!" And all around him his fellow magic hunters were similarly caught, stuck in their armour, frozen in various poses of attack, one of them bending down to light the fuse that might set off the witch-destroying weapon, also frozen, another with an arm above head about to launch a spear, others in the act of taking their swords from their scabbards. Iron. Their armour was made of iron. How could the witch's magic be working on iron? With a terrible sinking of the heart, Tsar realised how. Back in their last adventure, when they first met the King Witch in Queen Sycorax's dungeon, the King Witch had drunk some of Wish's magic, and now, for the very first time, he had a little magic that could work on iron. The King Witch had not taken enough of Wish's magic to do more than make the armour freeze. He couldn't make it move or dance, but freezing was quite enough to paralyse the witch-smeller and his band of magic hunters. "Are ye all right in there, pest controller?" snapped Queen Sycorax, peering through the witch-smeller's visor. "Enjoying your first encounter with a real witch?" "Help," said the witch-smeller in reply, and the soldiers all around him echoed, "Help, help, help," as they tried and failed to move the armour that had solidified all around them. Queen Sycorax sniffed. "So much for your famous witch-destroying weapon." "The King Witch shouldn't have been able to do that," said Encanto grimly. But they didn't have time to absorb any of the implications of that, for the King Witch whirled around and screamed, "Let me show you why you should say, do as I say, witches attack!" And we're going to leave it there. I shall see you tomorrow for chapter 16. Bye-bye.